I'm gonna throw a little thingy in the knife here, but I'm not worried about Lukaku. I really am not, and I'll tell you why.
Oh.
I'll tell you why. When you look.
Hello there, guys. It's Ben here from SW6 Lions TV. I hope you're all well. Obviously, we've got Liverpool on Saturday. We've got Stephen down there. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
Good, good. Yeah, all good, mate. Thanks for coming on. And also, no worries, mate. And we've got Matt. Matt, it's your debut today. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a Chelsea fan. Of course, I'm good.
Debut on the show. Good time.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
Right, Stephen, we'll get to you first. Obviously, you've played Burnley, you've played Norwich, you've won 2-0 and 3-0, same as us, actually. Not conceding any goals. Just talk to me a bit about your form at the moment. Are you impressed with the way Liverpool are playing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't complain when winning 3-0 the opening game of the season against Norwich away, clean sheets, and Burnley at home, tough game. Obviously, I'm sure you've probably seen some of the game. Some of the challenges were a bit naughty, but no, I mean, what can you say? 5 goals, 5 goals scored, none conceded. It's how can you complain, really? I mean, it's the same as you guys with your records, same exact 3-0 and 2-0. So couldn't have done it any more perfect, to be honest. 3-0 and 2-0, yeah, it's going well.
Has Van Dijk been playing in both games?
Yeah, he played both games so far. He's looking all right. Obviously, an ACL injury, he's going to stop slow. But I mean, I'd rather have a half-fit Virgil van Dijk than obviously a Reece Williams, in all fairness, or a Nat Phillips. So I mean, he just adds that presence in the team. To be honest, something that we've missed.
Yeah, definitely. He's a great player, whether he's injured or not. Really, I'd rather have him at 8% than anyone else. What formation are you playing at the minute? Are you 5 at the back?
No, it's Klopp always sticks to 4-3-3.
Does he? So
it's all he's got up his sleeve. It's all he's got. It's all he's got.
He's done pretty well with it.
Yeah, no, I can't lie. He's done all right with
it. Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully it goes down. Right. Matt, we'll come on to you. So obviously we've been like the same sort of record again. Like we've won 2-0, 3-0. We beat Arsenal comfortably. What are you thinking about us? Are you excited by what you're seeing?
Yeah.
Liverpool be worried. Should Liverpool be worried?
I think so, but I think we've also got to obviously be cautious about them too. Like we've said about the records, both teams have won 2 and 3-0, so it's not going to be an easy game. But I think Chelsea definitely, with the addition of Lukaku, look very dangerous and very exciting, to be fair. Like at times against Arsenal, we just looked like unplayable at times. Obviously, I know it's only Arsenal. They're not really seen as a big club anymore, but let's be honest, they're down like mid-table side now, so I don't even think beating them is that impressive anymore. But to be honest, against anyone, if you play that well, you've got to put fear into the opponents for sure.
Stephen, do you agree with that about Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, it says it all when they created a new Europa Conference League, and they can't even get into that. So that's how embarrassing. You know what I mean? It's Pacos de Ferreira in Portugal, or even in it, and Spurs, and then Spurs got beat 1-0, didn't they? So it's embarrassing when they can't even get into. I mean, two successive 8th place finishes, and I mean, how many teams would have stuck with a manager after that sort of performance and level? It's absolutely diabolical, and I can only agree with what Matt's just said there. When teams aren't really worried about playing Arsenal, and that's just a fact at the minute. I mean, Arsenal just get bullied. I mean, the perfect example was against Brentford. They got absolutely bullied. Lukaku did it against Pablo Mari last weekend. So I wouldn't worry, but I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal finish outside the top 10. I really wouldn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Top 10. That's not what I'm here right now. But yeah, I totally agree. I think they're in dire straits. Like, I think they compared, like, when we had like an Arsenal fan on the other day, he's basically saying, like our owners, like Liverpool and Chelsea's, like they're operating quite. Are you happy with your owner, by the way? Because there was some like hiccups during the Super League, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they didn't obviously do very well in that front. But if you look at an overall, look at hindsight and the way we were under Hicks and Gillette, massive amounts of debt. We could have gone in administration, and then we've came out of it. Now we're obviously in the clear. We may owe a little bit of money, but nothing massive. But then when you think they've developed Anfield, new training facilities, bought in the likes of Virgil van Dijk and Alisson when we needed them. And I think all in all, apart from obviously the Super League and trying to furlough staff to get money back, I think that's the only two blemishes that I can really put towards the owners, because I think overall they've done a pretty good job. And yes, we haven't got the likes of 97.5 million to spend on Lukaku. So I'm sure we'll touch upon that in a bit anyway. But but no, overall very happy with the owners, can't complain.
Yeah, no, it's the thing about investing, isn't it? You've invested well. Yeah. I think we do that as well, Matt, don't we? We invest well with our players.
Yeah, I think so. I think, to be fair, with that whole Super League thing, I think all of the big six didn't really like their owners at that time. But I think everyone was a bit annoyed, and like obviously at the end of the day, it's all past, and unless you're probably, I don't know, Man United maybe, then you're not really keen on your owners anyway. But the likes of obviously Chelsea, Liverpool, City, they're probably all quite happy with their owners, especially like you said, when we're signing big players like Lukaku or previous summer, a lot of players came in for a lot of money. You know, some frown upon it, but it's the way football's going now, I suppose, and it's all money nowadays. And and look what happens when you spend big, you go and win big. So
the thing is with Tottenham and Arsenal is the thing that they were never getting in the top four anyway. So for them to be in the Super League, like you can't really blame them to. But obviously, like for us, like we're getting in top four, like we're challenging for titles, and we every year, like at the moment. So
I feel like Leicester and West Ham got hard done by a little bit, because they were above Arsenal and Spurs for pretty much the majority of last season. So especially Leicester, I think they get slept upon, but I think they're definitely like a top six side now.
They really do. They really do. No one really sees them as like top, but they're showing consistency every season at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah. They just bottle it at the end of the year. That's all it is. They do so well, and then the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks of the season, they go and let themselves down. But I think obviously they showed it with the FA Cup final, obviously beating us. But I think it will come to the point where they'll struggle to fight in all competitions. But I expect them to win a big trophy at some point soon.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Matt. We'll stick you straight in it. Key battles on Sunday. What is it?
I think the main one's got to be obviously Lukaku against Van Dijk.
Yeah,
Lukaku against Van Dijk. I think that's going to be a really interesting one. Obviously, I feel like it's throwing Van Dijk in the deep end a little bit. Obviously, being out for so long, he's had a pretty tame start with Burnley and Norwich, and now he's got to handle like arguably one of the best strikers in the world. So obviously, it'll be interesting to see how he fares with that. Obviously, being out for so long. But I also think there's going to be a really interesting battle in the middle as well. Obviously, Liverpool's midfield has always been quite strong. Obviously, like Henderson, Thiago, if he starts, or who else you got in there? Fabinho. You know, you got a lot of powerhouse in the middle. But then obviously Jorginho and Kante just seem to be like world class at the minute. So I think Van Dijk and Lukaku, and then definitely the midfield is going to be an interesting battle. But as well, we can't sleep on Liverpool going forward. We know what their front three is capable of. Obviously, Salah's on his day is just ridiculous. Mane as well. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting battle the whole way across. But I think what everyone's going to have their eyes on is Van Dijk, Lukaku. That's going to be the big one.
Yeah, I agree. Stephen, do you agree with that, or do you see something else? Do you see something else in there?
Yeah, I do. To be honest, I'm going to throw a little thingy in the knife here, but I'm not worried about Lukaku. I really am not, and I'll tell you why. When he played for Manchester United, he came to Anfield. They got battered 3-1, hardly had any possession, and Nathaniel Klein, who was coming back from a back injury, marked him out the game. So when you look at it as well last season, especially at Stamford Bridge, when, yeah, fair enough, you went down to 10 men, but when we had a fully fit squad, we absolutely battered you at the Bridge and deservedly ran out 2-0 winners. So it could have been a lot more.
I do think our squad is totally different now, though. I would say, like, I think we have a totally different way of playing. And a totally different squad, I think.
I don't think the squad is different. Because
no, the players are the same, but I'm saying the way they're playing is totally different. At that time, Jorginho, 90% of the Chelsea fan base wanted him out of the club, and now everyone doesn't. We had the likes of Kepa starting in goal, and he cost us one of the goals and that. But I think also the difference is Lukaku at United didn't suit their style of play. They wanted him to get in behind a lot of the time, whereas with us, you saw on Sunday, everything's into his feet, and that's where Lukaku's strongest is into his feet, back to defenders. I think it's going to be a really interesting battle, but obviously we'll see about that if you're not worried about it.
Even when he scores, we'll be in for you again.
We'll give you a call when he scores a hat-trick.
To be fair, I have predicted him to score. I'll give him that. I have predicted him to score. But I just think the battles, obviously it is going to be a difficult battle, maybe for Van Dijk, but when you look at it, you touched upon it, Matt, there with the midfield battle. It depends which sort of Liverpool midfield player, because obviously Fabinho's just lost his dad. I know he's back in training now. Thiago is not really up to speed as of yet. And Henderson obviously played last weekend. But when you look at Liverpool's midfield last weekend, you had Naby Keita, Jordan Henderson, Harvey Elliott. Whether all three of them start, I potentially see Henderson starting, but I don't think Naby Keita or Harvey Elliott will start. So midfield battle will be a key, but I think the biggest battle will be down the obviously left and right hand side when you guys have got Reece James. The way that he attacked Arsenal, I think Tierney was dragged in as like a third centre back, so Reece James had the whole of the right hand side of the Emirates of space. He was free. I think both your goals came from that sort of tactic. So I think the battle, obviously Reece James, Trent. I think obviously Trent can get at Alonso. I think Alonso out of your back five that you generally play, I think I'd say he's the weak link out of your team at the back.
I think Chilwell's going to start on Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to say I think he starts because I think Tuchel starts Alonso because of his height and power.
Yeah.
I think that's against teams that are quite sort of like big going forward. I wouldn't say Liverpool are necessarily big and powerful going forward. You're quick, you're skillful, and I think Chilwell will be the better choice to deal with that. I think, especially with up against Salah, I think Chilwell would do a much better job than Alonso will.
That leads me on perfectly to my next question, actually. So we've mentioned it. Matt, we'll come to you first. Trent or Reece?
This argument could go on for a long time.
Go on, hand on heart. Chelsea bias aside, who would you put in? For me, it's quite easy.
Do you know what? I will say it, and someone in here is not going to like it, but I would. The only reason I'm going to say Reece James is because I feel like Reece James is stronger defensively than Trent Alexander-Arnold. And if you look at a right-sided defender, their main job is to defend. I think going forward, Trent is the best right-back in probably or arguably the world going forward. No one can deny that. But I think if you look at what a right-back is there to do in a team, I would go Reece James because I feel like he's more powerful and strong in defence. It's similar to the argument if you throw Wan-Bissaka in there as a right back and what a right back's supposed to do, he's probably up there in that argument because he does what a right back's supposed to do. But what lets Wan-Bissaka down is going forward. And I think what Reece James does so well is that he can do it defensively and attackingly, both as good as each other. And I think that's why if I was picking a team, I would pick Reece over Trent, purely for the fact that you put a right back in to defend.
Stephen, I saw you shaking your head there, mate. I don't think you're impressed with that. What are you saying?
I think Trent gets a bad reputation because I think he can defend really well. I really do. I think he's so underrated. I agree with obviously Reece James. I think he is probably, if you were going to say more of a defensive style, then probably Reece James. But like, I agree again, Matt. So obviously you said obviously Trent's the more better going forward, and definitely is. But I think if you look at some of the key battles, just taken back to Man City a couple of seasons ago as well, Leroy Sané and Sterling, he marked them out the game. I think he is tactically very good, obviously defensive as well. But I think right backs and generally have evolved. Obviously, when the sole purpose was to defend, but now it's right backs aren't sort of right backs anymore. They're, like you say, wing backs. So yes, the main priority is obviously to defend, but I think Liverpool's philosophy is always to get the balls to the wings and try and get the balls in early. And that generally works with Robertson and Trent on either side. I think when you look at teams that try and nullify both Robertson and Trent to stop the balls coming to the box early. So me personally, I'd say Trent.
If we're talking about going forward, let me just say, if we're talking about going forward though, has Trent played both games for you this season?
Yes, he has, yeah.
Has he scored yet?
Oh yet? No, he hasn't scored yet.
Not yet.
Didn't Reece James score on Sunday? And that was he's played a game less than Trent, and he's got 4 goals, and he got an assist as well. So I don't know.
we can't obviously compare after 2 games. Let's see what it's like.
We'll compare it at the end of the season. We'll compare
on 2 games or 1 game.
The reason why I hate Trent is because I remember I was at the game at Stamford Bridge and he scored a free kick and he comes celebrating right in front of us. So I was like, I'm always going to have something over that. Like, that's why Reece is going from it. I'm pure hatred. Matt, I'm going to ask you this. We'll start with you, Matt, actually. What is a unsuccessful season for us? So what would you not accept at Chelsea this year? Because obviously last year we've gone and won the Champions League. That's the pinnacle. Like, how do you, obviously by winning the Premier League, you beat that. But how do you, if we don't win a trophy, is that a disaster for you?
I think it's a fairly simple answer, to be fair. I think unsuccessful season is if we're trophyless and battling for top 4 this year, because if you look at last year in the league, we were battling for top 4. So if we end up battling for top 4 this year, that's not an improvement. That's on par with the previous season. And then if we go trophyless, we've actually had a worse season because we haven't won a trophy like we did last year. So I think an unsuccessful season would be trophyless with a top 4 battle. I think we have to be fighting for the title and pick up a trophy for it to be a successful season.
But Matt, if he gets 4th and he doesn't win a trophy, are you having that? Is he sacked?
Nah, he doesn't get sacked for that. You can't. I don't think you can sack a manager for getting top 4.
We're Chelsea.
I know we're Chelsea, but I don't think you can sack a manager for getting top 4, having gotten top 4 and winning the Champions League the previous season. But I think if we don't win a trophy this year, there will be some questions asked, because you think about the fact we've won the Champions League, having spent 220 mil or whatever it was. We've then added like a 20-30 goal a season striker to that squad. If we don't improve, so if we don't fight for the title and win a trophy this year, I think that's unsuccessful. But I don't think Tuchel gets sacked, because I also don't think you can't really complain with qualifying for the Champions League, because that's if you don't win the league, qualifying for the Champions League is the next best thing. But I think I'd be pretty disappointed if we weren't in a title fight this year. I would say that.
I would be as well. Stephen, what about you? Obviously, Klopp, he didn't win a trophy last year. If you don't win another one this year, is it the same sort of situation?
Well, I think Liverpool fans will stick through thick and thin with Klopp. I think that's just a guarantee. Obviously.
Top 4?
Sorry?
Imagine if you don't get into the top 4, would you still be?
I just think he's got that much of a relationship. I mean, first and foremost, I don't see Liverpool finishing outside the top 4. But even if they did, which it was looking quite increasingly likely last season, then the fans were still with him 100%. I mean, if you look at it the other way, and if you look at imagine if do you think Thomas Tuchel would do a great job at Liverpool if he didn't have any money, like Klopp's not really had any money? Do you think he would do as good a job as Klopp has obviously done for Liverpool?
If Tuchel was there now?
Yeah, if he was at Liverpool and didn't have any money to spend, or next to nothing to spend, where you've got to sell to buy, do you think Tuchel would do a good job?
I actually think he would.
With your squad now, I think he would. I think he would. Yeah. I honestly think Tuchel is a top manager. Like we obviously we got rid of Lampard and we all gutted by it. But then Tuchel came in and you see how tactically inept Frank Lampard was. Right. It's hard to say that about a legend, but it's true. But I think Tuchel at the moment he can't do anything wrong. Whatever whatever team he plays, sometimes I question it and think. I remember when we questioned and think, why is Jorginho in the team? Why is Marcus Alonso starting? Because when under Lampard, they were terrible. So I think he is getting the best out of his players.
I think the reason why I think he would do well at Liverpool now is because you look at when he came into Chelsea, Christensen wasn't really playing much. Rudiger couldn't get in the team. Yeah. Alonso couldn't get in the team. Jorginho was not even the player that he is now.
True.
Timo Werner was really struggling. Havertz was really struggling, and he came in. And at the time that these players were being called out by the media as mediocre players and all that sort of stuff, he made those players go and win a Champions League. He made those players world-class players. He's come in when Jorginho was getting frowned upon, and now Jorginho is probably likely to win the UEFA Men's Player of the Year. It goes to show that he's come in and he's made Rudiger look like one of the best centre-backs in the league. Christensen as well. He's made Christensen look like one of the better centre-backs in the league. And similar with Alonso, but Alonso's getting in the team, playing consistently well. So I think he would do a good job purely for the fact that he's made players who weren't on the top of their game playing well, he's made them champions of Europe. Do you know what I mean?
See ya. Stephen, I think you've spent a lot of money though, haven't you?
No, not really, no. Thiago was 25 million, but that's 5 million over 5 years, so that's next to nothing. Diogo Jota.
He's bought in like Van Dijk, isn't he?
Yeah, Van Dijk and Alisson were bought out with the Coutinho money. So 75 for Van Dijk, I think it was 60 or 65. I think it was 60 million for Alisson. So that both players covered the Coutinho money. And like I say, Thiago, 5 million per season that they're having to pay to Bayern Munich for the next 5 seasons is next to nothing for a world-class midfielder. And they're doing the same sort of payment structure with Diogo Jota as well. I think it was 5 million for the first season, then maybe 20 million for next season and 20 million afterwards to cover it. So it's all structural payments, to be honest. So when you think about it, he's had to sell to buy.
Yeah, I think we haven't, obviously we can just go and spend money, but we've sort of been doing the same. Like we got obviously Hazard's money, and they said the Kaku deal, we've already made that back with the loan players going out and all that. So it is obviously it's not the same because we've got that money to go out and spend. But I think we've been managing it a little bit better. Who have you bought this year? Are we happy with the transfers, both of you? We'll start with Stephen. Have you bought anyone?
Yeah, the only person we've bought so far is Konate for 36 million from Leipzig. I still think we're a little bit short in getting a replacement for Gini. I think desperately we need someone in to try and replace him, because the one thing he guaranteed you was he was playing week in, week out. He was very rarely injured, if any. I think he missed 7 or 8 games in the 5 seasons he was at Anfield. So, and I think we need the staggering differences between our bench and your bench. It's just absolutely astounding how you look at your bench and then you've got the likes of obviously you've let Tammy Abraham go, I think was a decent player for you. So your benches are obviously a lot better. You've got the quality, but obviously we've got, generally speaking, we've got one of the strongest 11 in the Premier League. But like you seen last season, if we get a few injuries, with obviously that we're very unfortunate to lose all 3 centre backs. Then Fabinho getting injured and playing centre back alongside Henderson. Obviously, hopefully, touch wood, we don't get an injury crisis like that, because if it happens again, it's it's going to be a long old season.
Yeah, Matt, what about you? Are you happy? Obviously, we bought Lukaku for 100 million. Anywhere else you'd strengthen?
Not right now. I wouldn't. Obviously, I think we went into this window knowing that we needed a world-class striker. Obviously, there was names thrown in: Haaland, Lukaku. Kane was thrown in there at one point, but I don't think anyone really thought that was ever going to happen anyway. But the one thing we were missing last year was a striker, a goal scorer, a guy that can stick the ball in the back of the net inside the box. We've gone out, we've spent big money on one of the best in the world, if not arguably one of the most informed, arguably the best in the world at the minute at what he does. But it will be interesting to see who goes out, because if we get rid of Zuma, I'd like us to bring in that Koundé, purely for the fact that we'd be a centre back down if we didn't. So it'd be quite nice to bring him in. And then there's that Sound Niguez deal that people are talking about. I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of think I'm swaying towards better rather than not, purely for the fact that Chelsea quite evidently want to sign Declan Rice at some point. We're not going to sign him this summer because £100 million, I think, is ridiculous for him. I think he's a world class.
Unpopular opinion. I don't want him.
Wow.
Do you not?
Nah, I don't. I'm not. Gonna, I don't even rate him.
I like what he does in his position. I don't know if there's many in the Premier League that do what he does as well as he does.
What do you do, Matt?
We just in the midfield. You look at the fact that he's in a West Ham team who a couple of years ago were down the bottom of the table, sort of lower half, and he's kind of transformed that West Ham team. Yeah, okay, alongside Souček in that defensive role, but for me, Declan Rice stands out head and shoulders every single time West Ham play, ahead of everyone, because 9 times out of 10, if they go and win a game, he will be the one.
What?
Breaking...
And Stephen, you can add this in as well. What top 5 team does he get into right now?
It's difficult to say.
You don't get in Liverpool, I don't think.
No, definitely not. He wouldn't get Liverpool's team. I don't think he'd get in Chelsea's team. Right. Wouldn't get in Manchester City's team. I think the only team he may get into would be Manchester United, because when you look at their team, you've got Fred and McTominay. Them on good enough.
Yeah.
And Matic. So maybe I think they're the only one that.
That's what they're saying. More of a move to Man United. Yeah. I heard Danny Murphy on TalkSport. He's been saying Man United, and he's met him up quite a few times down the golf course or something. So I think that's a bit.
I think I would argue the point. I feel like he would get into Man City's team, because I think he's better than Rodri, who they've got at CDM at the minute.
He's not even playing. It's Fernandinho, isn't it? So
yeah, Fernandinho, mate.
Does that not say a lot that their best CDM is a 36-year-old who is kind of he's not as good as he was 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Fernandinho's still top. I think he's still top.
But I think Rice gets in that team ahead of Fernandinho. Personally, for me,
I've got to go with Stephen here. No chance.
Do you reckon? I just think he does, because I personally think, obviously it's all opinionated, isn't it, football? But I think for what he does, especially in a West Ham side, who, no disrespect to them, they're not like a elite level club, yet Declan Rice is playing at an elite level of football. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I just don't personally. Hopefully, you ain't the manager of Chelsea in a few years' time. Jesus. Right, we'll go on to the last bit, lads, because I know we've had quite a lot of your time. We're going to go score predictions. Matt, we'll go with you first. What do you reckon?
I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think it's going to be. It's going to be totally different to the games, obviously, both teams have played so far.
Yeah,
like it's not going to be a walkover for either team. I think it's going to be low scoring. Obviously, I've got to back the boys. I think I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea personally. I just think that if you look at the options going in, if you're going into the last sort of 20 minutes of the game and it's 1-1, I just think like you were saying, Stephen, Chelsea have a lot more options to come off the bench to change a game rather than Liverpool do. So that's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen. But obviously, I've got to back the boys. I just can't. I'm that confident at the minute that I just don't feel like anyone's going to beat us. The form we're in at the moment.
I hope you're right, Matt. Stephen, what do you think?
Well, I've already done a prediction for this on my other channel, so I've gone for 2-1 to Liverpool. I just think the recent record, obviously, bearing in mind, fair enough, you beat us 1-0 last season, but we didn't have our full strength team. You obviously outplayed us on the day and deservedly won. Probably one of the best teams that played at Anfield last season. But I just think with us fully fit squad, fans obviously fully packed Anfield, I just fancy Liverpool. I think it's going to be a close game. Don't get me wrong. I don't see it being a 3-4, 5-3 like it was a couple of seasons ago when it was the end of the season. But I just see Liverpool just edging it 2-1. I think Mo Salah and Jota will score, and I think Lukaku will score for you.
Oh. All right, guys, there you have it.
What about you? What's your prediction?
Oh, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, go on. Put him under the spotlight. Come on.
Yeah. I'm
scared. Stephen, you going to it or not? You going to the game?
No, I wish I could, mate, but no, unfortunately not.
See, I'm driving down 4 hours for this, so I'm going with 1-0. And if anything but, I'm going to be livid. Well, I
think it's going to be a 1-goal game. It's going to be a 1-goal game.
It's going to be 1-0. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be tight. But yeah, I'll go 1-0 Lukaku, and then Stephen will be on to you again. We'll call you up. No, you ain't coming back on. Anyway, boys.
If Chelsea win, you will be walking alone. That's for sure.
Lads, thanks so much for your time. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
No worries, mate.